Okay, I'm making this video because I have a question and I want answers. This is not hockey news, this is not something that you will find on any other channel. This is just me talking about it. It's an own personal channel kind of issue. Let's talk a little bit about why I want, and why exactly I'm skeptical about this series and its future. Do I still plan to make why I want videos? Yes, but the context in which how I'll make those videos, it really depends on the comments I'll receive in this video right here. So, if you didn't know already, because I did get quite a few new subscribers since the end of the draft last year and in this regular season this year, the Why I Want series is pretty much my own version of scouting reports. Why I Want has always focused on my fandom as a Vancouver Canucks fan, and I would take a look at prospects that I would want the Vancouver Canucks to draft. It's a very self-explanatory series, Why I Want. Now last year, I kicked off Why I Want again on December 30th. I made a video Why I Want Kirby Dach for the Vancouver Canucks, pretty much a scouting report video on him in the context of my favorite team, the Vancouver Canucks. And that's what the series has always been. Why I Want, even going back to 2017, 2018, I made Why I Want on Adam Boakfist, Quinn Hughes, I talked about Oliver Wahlstrom, I talked about players that, from the perspective of my Vancouver Canucks fandom, I wanted. And that's what it's always been. I've always been talking about Vancouver Canucks related prospects, and the series has always been about players that I think the Vancouver Canucks would have a chance to draft. That's why I didn't make Why I Wants for Rasmus Dahlin, Filip Zadina, or Andrei Svechnikov, because at the time, it didn't really seem like they would be a team that would be able to get those players. Last year, though, I did kind of stretch the gun a little bit, talked about Hughes, talked about Kakko, talked about Dach, but the Canucks were not necessarily a team that was supposed to be super good, and therefore they had somewhat of a chance to get these players in the few months leading up to the draft lottery. However, this year things are kind of different, because if you know the Vancouver Canucks situation with their first-round pick, if they make the playoffs, they don't get a first-round pick in general. And that is very limiting to me in my Why I Want series, because then every single video idea I have for Why I Want goes down the drain, because the Canucks wouldn't even have a chance to get that player. Now, the Canucks making the playoffs is not guaranteed, but if they do miss out on the playoffs, then they don't have a first-round pick next year. And sure, they'll keep their first-round pick this year, and it will be a lottery pick that will have the opportunity to get first, second, or third overall. But therein lies another problem. Because if the Vancouver Canucks don't make the playoffs this year, they will barely miss out. This is not a team that's a bottom feeder anymore. The Vancouver Canucks not making the playoffs means that they're just missing out on the wild card, and therefore there will be a lot of teams underneath them in the standings. The worst I could see Vancouver finishing up in the draft lottery is like 12th, or 11th, or 10th. I don't see the Vancouver Canucks getting a top 10 pick in this draft unless they win a lottery and get 1, 2, or 3. That in itself is really limiting to me because, okay, let's do something right here. Go to Elite Prospects, yeah, we'll do that, and we'll check out the NHL mock drafts. Check out the mock drafts and take a look at all the talent that is available. Let's go to hockeyprospect.com because they're the first ones. Okay, so their top 10 is Lafrenière, Byfield, Askarov. My goodness, Askarov, 3rd overall. And that's not big of a surprise. Raymond, Stützle, Perfetti, Holloway, Drysdale, Mercer, and Gunler. Okay, so the Vancouver Canucks, in my opinion, can finish no worse than 10th overall. Alright, that's cool. And the Vancouver Canucks can get a first, second, or third overall pick if they win the lottery. Yeah, alright, that's great too. But that means the Vancouver Canucks will, in no reality, get a 4th, a 5th, or a 6th overall pick, which means that me sitting here in my chair talking about this team and the prospects, It's not really valid for me to make a why I want on Lucas Raymond, who is currently ranked 4th overall, or Tim Stützle, who's ranked 5th overall, or Perfetti, who's ranked 6th overall. And that's a problem because I'm most familiar with these top guys. I can't make a why I want on them because they're going to be too good to be in the Vancouver Canucks draft range, and they're going to be too poor to be a top 3 pick. Do you kind of see the problem here? If I do this the same way I've been doing this in the most previous years, I would be really limiting myself to the amount of prospects that I can actually talk about. Let alone everybody who would be projected to go past 16th overall, I can't make a video about, because the Vancouver Canucks are gonna not have their pick if they make the playoffs, and therefore, none of these guys will be available. In the previous years, I could do it, because anybody who was in that post-16 kind of range, there was always the idea of, hey, what if they slip to the second round? What if the Canucks can snag them up there? And I could talk about them in that kind of way. But this year, the Canucks and their overall draft picture put such a big dent in the first round that I think it will be really limiting if I try to make things the same way that I did last year. Which is why I'm proposing this idea. You know that I'm a Canucks fan, you know that I'm a Canadiens fan, you know I cover the Red Wings here and there. What if I made why I want videos not just for Vancouver, but for whichever team I am feeling that day? I could still do the same prospect analysis and the same prospect identities and scouting reports and all that stuff, but the angle explored will be a little bit different. Rather, why I would want them for the Canucks, why I would want them for the Red Wings instead. Is that an idea that you would be on board with? Because I need to ask it first. I can't just go ahead and do it because Why I Want has always been a Vancouver Canucks related series, and as a result, it's always been a Vancouver Canucks fan receptive series. So changing everything up, putting a different team in the thumbnail, and just going along with it like pretending nothing has changed would definitely be a weird thing for me to do. So I'm kind of confused, and I'm kind of debating whether or not that would be a good idea. Because, hey, it makes a lot of sense if I were to do it, by the way. Detroit sucks this year, so they are going to have all the runnings at the top talents. If I wanted to do a Why I Want on Cole Perfetti or Stützle or Yaroslav Askarov, Detroit would be the team to do it with. If I tried it with Vancouver, it really wouldn't work, because those guys are not good enough to be first, second, or third, nor are they bad enough to be available when the Vancouver Canucks pick in the first round, assuming they miss the playoffs and assuming they keep their first round pick. Does that make sense? Right? The Habs are kind of in that same situation. If they miss the playoffs, they have a pretty good chance of being in that top 10, assuming their play starts to suffer and they're not as good as they were previously. So that's an idea I could entertain, because anybody who is in the top of the draft, I could do for Detroit. In the middle of the first round, I could kind of do for the Canadiens and maybe the Canucks. And everything beyond the middle part of the first round, we could either talk about with these teams taking him in the second round or whatever, because, you know, there are going to be moments like that where a player that I think is really good, like Bobby Brink, slips over into the second round. But obviously, it is kind of a weird situation, and I needed to ask you first, and I also needed to ask if anybody would be interested in actually watching that, because Why I Want has always been for the Canucks fans, and it's always been to give the Canucks fans a scoop of what's in the draft. So, changing everything up and allowing other teams to enter the mix is something that I would be open to, but at the same time, I don't want to stray away any Canucks fans and any potential Canucks viewers from watching the video just because it doesn't have the Canucks in the thumbnail. Say what you want about growth and all that stuff. This channel has always been, ever since Why I Want was invented, a primarily Vancouver Canucks related discussion topic channel. We've expanded that a little bit over the past few months, but I needed to ask about Why I Want. because this is the prospect series. This is our scouting series. This is our 2020 draft coverage series, and there are many restrictive avenues that the Vancouver Canucks have put down that would not make things as accessible as they were last year for this hockey team. So what do you think? Why I wants for different teams? Is that a possibility? Would you be okay with that? Would you watch that? Let me know in the comments below. Send all your suggestions too, because I really do need to find a way to work through this, because the Canucks don't look like they're going to get a first-round pick, and if they don't, then I'm really screwed. None of the videos I'm going to make are going to make any sense. But I hope you enjoyed this video, so and bye.